Welcome to Erasmus Project Include3, Halfways Towards Inclusion. Transitions from sheltered employment for people with intellectual disabilities into the regular labor market. Curriculum for Collaborative Inclusive Learning. The Include3 Method Unit 6, Analyzing Labor Market Needs, Labor Market Needs Matching. Within this unit, you will learn how to guide employers to identify activities in their organization that can be combined into a job for people with disabilities. You will also learn how to define skills requirements together with employers and people with disabilities. You will check what information needs employers and people with disabilities have. You will also get to know about employer preparation, onboarding process, and follow-up of a transition into an internship or workplace. Before hiring a person with a disability, an employer is faced with a number of questions. Will the person fit into my company? Which administrative procedures will I have to take on? How will my employees react? Sometimes these questions can also lead to the company developing fears and not hiring the person at all. A number of requirements must therefore be met before a company decides to include a person with a disability. For example, openness can be achieved by reducing prejudices, translating advantages and examples of good practice. Information and awareness raising. This includes information on clear and understandable communication, managing people with disabilities, working together in teams, and specific, individual, and disability-related characteristics. Incentives. These include, for example, financial support that rewards the employment of a person with a disability or helps to reduce financial disadvantages. At the same time, however, a network guide that can help through the funding jungle is also important. Workplace requirements. In order to be able to provide a specific workplace, the employer must first know the company's needs. From this, an individual workplace can be designed in conjunction with the wishes and strengths of the person with a disability. Help with onboarding and implementation. The employer also has information requirements for onboarding after recruitment. In this unit, we want to look in particular at job analysis, job carving, and a possible first meeting between the company and the future trainee or employee with a disability. In this unit, you will also learn about working materials for translating benefits for the employment of people with disabilities and onboarding. In order to employ a person with a disability, a company must first of all be aware of their needs. These are partly derived from the company's jobs and tasks. So let's start by taking a look at how to proceed systematically. Work analysis is about systematically analyzing and describing work activities. Requirements analysis is a subform of job analysis. The aim of the requirements analysis is to identify the sensoromotor, cognitive, social, and emotional motivational requirements that the job holder should fulfill. In other words, it describes specific characteristics that a future job holder should have. When hiring a person with an intellectual disability, however, we do not start from the analysis of an existing job that could be occupied by the person with a disability. It is much more about the fact that the job must be created individually for the person with a disability. Especially when the employer hires a person with a cognitive disability for the first time, you can guide and support them with advice. That's why we're looking at a different method today, job carving. This involves creating a job and a company for a person with a disability from existing work tasks. The job then matches the wishes, strengths, and needs, for example, working hours of the person with a disability. Job carving also considers aids and support options. The advantage for the company is that skilled workers can be relieved of simple tasks. Job carving consists of several steps. First, at the beginning, one or more people are identified for whom the job is to be carved. You can already see the difference between this and requirements analysis. The process starts with the person with a disability. Second, the image of an ideal job for the person with a disability is then created. Third, then select an industry or employer that could fit this image. Fourth, an employer must then be found within this sector who sees the advantages of job carving. Fifth, an interview is conducted to identify possible work tasks. Sixth, finally, the work tasks are assigned to the potential employees. The method can also be used for an internship. Would you like to find out more about job carving? Here you will find materials for further reading. Now we would like to show you working materials that you can use in the job carving process or when finding out the employer's needs. All materials are designed in such a way that they can be developed jointly by companies and people with disabilities in a co-productive process. As a counselor, you have the role of moderating and guiding the process. What are the advantages of the co-productive process? Empowerment. People with disabilities can contribute their strengths and needs themselves. This promotes satisfaction and self-esteem. They are involved in every step. Tailor-made job design. The needs and requirements of both sides are openly communicated from the outset thanks to the jointly discussed tailor-made job design. This increases the chances of long-term job placement. Employee retention. By openly communicating the tasks, support requirements and general conditions of the position together, there is less chance of disappointment later on, which leads to increased employee loyalty. Increased productivity. By adapting tasks to the strengths of employees, they can work more efficiently and productively, which ultimately also benefits the company. How does it start? Before working together on possible tasks and environmental conditions for a job, the company and the person with a disability should first get to know each other. This lays the foundation for good cooperation later on. We have created 2 task sheets as initial working material. One task sheet is aimed at employers and one at people with disabilities. The task sheets help both sides to introduce themselves to each other in an understandable way and to formulate their wishes for the workplace. The company also receives tips for simple language that is understandable for people with cognitive disabilities. We have also created job carving checklists as additional work material. They show simple activities in different areas, for example, restaurant, food processing, packaging, cleaning, and sales. The job carving checklist can be used by companies that are still unsure about which tasks they can hand over to an employee with a cognitive disability. It is important that all ideas and tasks that the employer could pass on to the future employee are transparent and that other general conditions of the position or internship, such as working hours or support requirements, can also be recorded. We have prepared the job carving placemat as additional material for this. It consists of 3 main fields and can be completed jointly by employers, consultants, and potential employees. The first field contains the tasks that the person with a disability can perform in the company. The second field contains the skills that are required for this. This allows the employer to clarify exactly what skills are required. The third field contains the general conditions of the job. How can the consultant support the co-productive process? As a consultant, you can support the co-productive process by moderating the process. Assemble and prepare all the necessary work materials. Explain work assignments clearly for everyone. How can the consultant support the co-productive process? If tasks can be completed in advance in preparation for the meeting, distribute them to the parties. Support companies in formulating comprehensible statements and requirements. Helping people with disabilities to formulate questions. Make sure that all parties have an equal say and can express their needs. Another option for people with disabilities to find a job is job coaching. Would you like to find out more? Listen to the podcast Stay Inclusive with the podcast episode Job Coaching. At the beginning, you also learned that the openness of the company is a prerequisite for hiring people with disabilities. This can be achieved with good arguments. We have researched 2 videos for you. In Kofa's video, you will find 10 crisp arguments in favor of hiring people with disabilities. The video is in German, but you can have the video translated into your language via automatic subtitles. In the BLID video, you will find arguments for the employment of people with disabilities put forward by employees and companies. At the beginning, you also learned that companies want help with onboarding and the start of employment. We have compiled 2 materials for this purpose. A list from KOFA shows in German what a company needs to consider before, during, and after the first day at work. Another didactic material shows a short profile for employers with emergency numbers, contact persons, etc. You have reached the end of Unit 6. In Unit 7, you will now learn how to combine individual and labor market needs.